Welcome to Next Level Greatness, the podcast. Around here, we'll be talking about all things expansion, going from good to great and from great to greatness. I'm your host, Barbie Collab. Get ready for your next level. Let's do this. Welcome to episode 17 of Next Level Greatness, the podcast. Worthiness and manifestation. We are just coming off the heels of my latest workshop on manifestation. And before the workshop, I had participants send me, if they wished, what their position is on manifestation, where they are with manifestation, and some of the things that they struggle with. And the common denominator that I saw was lack of worthiness. So we're not talking about, I don't deserve anything. Unworthiness, the feeling that we don't deserve to reach a higher level in our lives, is pervasive in our society. It's not just one demographic. It's not just a certain income level. Our sense of unworthiness affects every single area of our lives, whether it's our friendships, our love relationships, reaching the next level in our business, the way that we treat ourselves and often drive ourselves to the ground. And so if you want to manifest in your life, which simply means to make a reality or bring whatever it is that you desire, whether it's peace, love, a beautiful relationship, $1 million a year, $10 million a year, it really doesn't matter the thing that you want to manifest, whether that thing is immaterial or material. So today we're going to explore this idea of worthiness. And I wish I could tell you that there was a 5-step process to feeling worthy, or even that there's an 8-step process to manifesting. I am able to break manifesting down into what I see as 8 steps, which we talk about in different episodes or throughout all the episodes of this podcast. But I don't want it to get lost that manifesting and being human is not a linear X-step process. Being human is a process, and it's a messy process. And we just have to learn, if we haven't learned yet, to fall in love with it. So before we jump right into it, I want to begin with an example. So the workshop was on Wednesday. The next day, I felt completely depleted. My cup was empty. And that is typical for me. Even back when I was teaching at the university, whenever I would teach, I taught Tuesdays and Thursdays. The next day, I would be completely empty. I was going to say it's a performance, but I'm not performing, because performing is kind of putting on a show. Maybe that's just in my mind. There's a sense of like falsehood to it, but I leave it all on the table. And so I need several days to recover. Well, this is 2 days after the workshop. And yesterday I could have pushed myself, but I felt unable, or my cup was empty. I could not record a podcast, and the podcast was due. I work with a team, and they help me to put the podcast together, to do the show notes, to upload it. That's one of the things that I have learned in my life, is to not do it all myself. So my struggle was that I was so drained, and yet I have made a commitment to you guys to bring you an episode every Wednesday. And I also made a commitment to the team. And then there was the very real struggle and situation that I felt drained. And so I had to decide, do I honor the commitment to myself, which is to take care of myself because I know what the consequences are of not taking care of myself? Or do I risk letting you guys down? Do I risk letting my team down because I had said that I would have my podcast on a certain day? And so I really reflected on this. It's so important for me to put myself first so that I can be the best person for you. And I want to practice what I preach. And so what I decided to do was to send the podcast team a message and say, listen, I'm losing my voice because I am still working on using my voice correctly so that I don't strain my vocal cords. And I said, and I'm drained. I would love a little extension, but I understand if we can't, I will accept the consequences. And so I accept responsibility for whatever happens, but I would love the extension. So we'll see. I don't know if you will get this episode on Wednesday. And this doesn't mean that I'm not committed to you. It means that I'm committed to myself first because my cup was pretty empty. So here we are. I was practicing self-worth. What does it mean to feel worthy? And how is that getting in the way of our manifestations? On today's episode, we're going to talk about why we lack self-worth, where we look for validation, and how to increase our sense of self-worth. So many of us don't feel lovable. We don't feel deserving. We forget that it is our birthright to exist. Why do we lack self-worth? Where does this come from? And from all the personal development that I've done, all the workshops, all the books, it seems that regardless of social status, I don't know, I'm not in every single human being's inner self and their psyche, but a lot of us struggle with a lack of self-worth. Where does it come from? Honestly, it could be from the time that your mom said, no, you can't have this donut. Because if we remember, our subconscious is programmed as little children. By the age of 7, our subconscious is almost crystallized. And most of us are walking around like little children, taking actions, having beliefs that we learned based on what our parents said, what our teachers said, experiences that we've had, and we're making these subconscious decisions. And so for me, I'll give you an example of myself. When I was a child, I was about 6 years old, my brother was diagnosed with cancer. We were living in South America, in Ecuador, and my mother decided to go to the United States to seek treatment because there was an alternative treatment, a clinical experiment that my brother could take part of. And so I was left behind. To a rational mind, to an adult, that made sense. I went to my aunt's house, and that is where I lived for, I don't know if it was 6 months or a year, but it felt like an eternity. But think of the subconscious programming on that for a 6-year-old. You are not worthy. You are rejected. Your mom doesn't love you. Even though she clearly loved me, she was just trying to do the best thing for the family. But as a consequence of that and many other small little incidents, when my aunt told me, no, you can't have this donut, but your brother can have it, I gained a sense of unworthiness. And so I sought validation through school, through achievement. So think about your own situation, your own circumstances. What events could have made you feel that you were unworthy? And honestly, I've shared this with you in the past that I spent many years doing therapy, just nitpicking what went wrong in my childhood and what wasn't right. And I don't even know. I know there's a place for therapy. I believe in therapy. I love therapy, but I don't know if I needed to spend 9 years doing that, to be honest. And so if you are just aware that you feel unworthy, and we're going to get to the awareness part in just a bit, I think that's a good place to start. So where do we look for validation? Many of us look for validation in our careers. We want the gold stars, the adult gold stars, right? We look for validation in relationships, in romantic relationships, in friend relationships. If this person likes me, if this person loves me, then I must be worthy. If we look for validation in money, I am worthy because I make X amount of money. Or this person must be really worthy and really special because they make this amount of money. I can also share with you that that is the place from which, and I didn't even realize it until very recently, that is the place from which I manifested a multi-million-dollar business in my network marketing company. I wanted to, and I needed to prove to myself that I was worthy. But there's a different place from which we can manifest. We can manifest from a place of worthiness. We can manifest from a place of joy, a place of, I want to create because I love creating. I want to impact because I love to impact. I want to create and I want to make X amount of dollars because I want to show my mom, my dad, society, this person, that person, myself, that I am worthy. Because that's exhausting, just not deeply fulfilling. And also in the end, this feeling of having to do things, acquire relationships, money, career, so that we can prove that we are worthy, it just leads to suffering and manifesting things that in the end don't make us happy. So I wanted to say one more thing about, or the perpetual cycle of our suffering, is that we have this idea that other people are doing it right and that somehow we are falling short. And my theory is that, especially now with social media, that happens because we can't see inside somebody else's heart, somebody else's head. We only see what we see, what our eyes can see, what we can sense. And we sense that other people are doing it right and that we are doing it wrong. When in reality, we're all just doing what we're doing and we're doing our best and we're all at different levels. And so the solution or the antidote to increasing our sense of self-worth has to do with understanding that very thing that I'm talking about, which is we're all human, which means that I don't even want to say that we're all imperfect, but we all just are what we are. We all are what we are. And yes, we can take steps. We can be involved in this process of what Tara Brach calls radical self-acceptance. It's truly loving and accepting ourselves for who we are and what we are with all our nuances. We don't need to say flaws and imperfections. We just are. We're human. When we fully love and accept ourselves, warts and all, as they say, manifesting and what we want to manifest are going to become so much easier, and that helps us get into alignment. I was listening to a video the other day with Sadhguru. It was just a short little video. And he was talking about the perfection of the ant. So take a little ant, a little bug, or take an elephant, take any creature. Every creature that exists is perfect. And he was not dissecting, but he was just looking at an ant. And is it debatable that an ant is a perfect creation? Every being created, whether we like that being, I just thought of a roach. Like, nobody thinks that a roach is like the most perfect creation, but it is. Every creature, every being, everything on this earth serves a purpose and is perfect. Whether we like it or not, we attach meaning to that being. And so when it comes to ourself and our own self-worth, it's not up for debate that we have the right to exist. So we have to develop this deep knowing of our worthiness and stop trying to debate, to justify, to rationalize that we are worthy or unworthy. We were born worthy. That is it. We are like the ant. We are no different than the ant. Yes, of course, we're different, and we have a consciousness and we have a rational mind, which gets us in trouble. but we have that intrinsic value. There is no debating that. And so when you find yourself having negative thoughts and having self-doubt and telling yourself that you're not worthy because of all your past programming and everything everybody ever told you, and, you know, your mom, dad, brother, sister, whoever it was that said, who do you think you are? We're all sort of hurt people walking around, a product of our subconscious. So whoever it is that tried to imprint their own beliefs, someone tried to imprint their beliefs on them, and it worked. And so by the act of just becoming aware that we are all intrinsically worthy, that is a huge step. And so just remind yourself when you begin to notice. And again, I don't have like a 5-step process, because that's what society's selling us. The process to getting this and becoming that. I realized that in creating this podcast, that my work on self-worth began probably when I was 18. Well, no, I used to visit a yoga place that was right next to my high school. And then in college, I would go to the spiritual stores and I would pick up books on self-worth, on visualization. And my realization is that this work of being and feeling worthy is a process that takes place during a lifetime, and that there are different levels of worthiness. Like I said, I just recently realized that I was manifesting from a place that wasn't a full worthiness. I wasn't attracting what I wanted to attract in certain areas because I didn't feel worthy enough in some areas, not in all areas. So just rest assured, there is nothing wrong with you. You are just human, and that means that we feel all sorts of things. If you look at your reality, your present reality, your relationships, your work circumstance, the business that you may want to create, and you don't like what you see, I would say start exploring your sense of self-worth. I wanted to share just 3 books with you that I found on my shelf and that I've used heavily. The first one is by Kristin Neff. These are all experts in the area of self-compassion, self-worth. So the way that we reach a state of worthiness, or that we increase our worthiness, is through self-compassion and through fully accepting ourselves. So the first book is by Kristin Neff, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, Self-Compassion. It makes sense, right? The second book is by Christopher Germer. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And The Mindful Path to Self-Compassion, Freeing Yourself from Destructive Thoughts and Emotions. And then the last book is Radical Acceptance. Oh my gosh, is it Radical Self-Acceptance? I will put it in the show notes. This one's from memory, but I know her book very well. And it is by Tara Brach. So again, there is no 5-step system. This is the work of a lifetime. I want you to fall in love with this process. Know that I am fully into this work myself. I have never wanted to present myself as any kind of guru or perfect enlightened being. And I think that's why it's so important to be transparent with you in this podcast, in my workshops, in my courses, so that you see through other examples that we're all just human and that we're all just doing the best that we can, and that it is a work in progress, but it's a beautiful work in progress. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time. Did you love that episode or what? Make sure to leave me a review, and let's connect over on Facebook in Your Empowered Life community. I'll see you next time.